Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Robert Mitchell. I am the President of the Australian Weightlifting Federation. This evening it is my pleasure to announce that three new persons will be inducted into the Australian Weightlifting Hall of Fame. This is our highest honour and one which each recipient should be rightfully proud. It is my pleasure tonight to announce that the three inductees into the Hall of Fame will be Deborah Ackerson, George Vasiliadis and Sam Coffer. I hope you enjoy the evening and I look forward to a great few days of competition at the Oceania Weightlifting Championships 2013.
Before we start talking about the wonderful athlete which I'm about to introduce to you, I want to, on behalf of Australian Weightlifting, welcome Mike Victor, the Vice President of the Australian Commonwealth Games Association. Mike, we're delighted. And now to our first inductee, and a real first for weightlifting. It's not going to take you long to work out why. Our first inductee this evening will be Deborah Ackerson, Neil Lovely. And Deborah has succeeded in so many things. I've got an enormous list here to read out to you. She first excelled in throwing things, a discus, a hammer, even a rugby ball, and then tore up the track on the cycling track as well. Deb, born and bred Queenslander, was a promising junior track and field athlete, and she won the bronze medal in the discus at the inaugural World Youth Championships in Poland when she was just 15. I think Brad had something to do with that too. Then, in an effort to build her strength for discus and hammer and throw events, he stumbled upon weightlifting and proceeded to break a number of Australian records at youth and junior levels before really committing to this wonderful sport we all love. 14 years later, Deborah is now considered to be the most experienced and successful Australian Weightlifting Federation female lifter to date, and being the first female to represent Australia at 2 Olympic Games and win medals at 3 consecutive Commonwealth Games, contested in the 75 and 75 plus categories. At the 2002 Manchester Commonwealth Games, Deb won silver medals in snatch, jerk and tow. Her first Olympic effort was at 2004 Athens Games, where Deb placed 13th before claiming a memorable gold medal at the 2006 Commonwealth Games. I was privileged to witness both those events. It's a victory Deb describes as a massive relief after what was a unique and challenging build-up instigated by a severe knee injury and tendonitis that followed the Athens Games. However, not to be deterred, Deborah returned to cycling during her rehabilitation period in 2006, and not surprisingly, as a natural gifted athlete that she is, raised our eyebrows with a promotion to the National Track Cycling Program. So they tried to steal her from us. She went on to claim 3 gold medals and 2 silver medals at the Queensland Track and Field Track Cycling Championships in 2007. She proved her versatility yet again in the same year when she was selected for the Australian rugby side's training squad before an ankle injury put pay to her career, thank God, on the pitch and led her back to the operating theatre and eventually the barbell. In 2008, Deb joined the world's best in Beijing, where she set new national records, earning her 8th place at her 2nd Olympic Games. During the event, Deb blew out her shoulder attempting the last clean and jerk, and on returning to Australia underwent a shoulder reconstruction, followed by a lengthy period of recovery and rehabilitation. But never being one to give up in the face of adversity, Deb set her sights on the 2010 Delhi Commonwealth Games. Timed to perfection, and she left it very much the last minute, Her performance at the final trials in Brisbane was impeccable and earned her a place on the Australian Commonwealth Games Association team. And later in Delhi, Deb took out the bronze medal, giving her a full set of Commonwealth Games medals: silver, gold, and bronze. In 2011, Deb and her husband Josh became the joyous parents with the birth of, she's here somewhere, there she is, Ava. And Deb has continued to juggle her career as a lawyer, motherhood, and supporting her husband and weightlifting. In 2013, the Atkinsons packed up their belongings in Ipswich and moved to Miles, Western Queensland. Engaging with the new community, Deb, Josh and Ava have set up a new weightlifting club and are now drawing in more enthusiasts to our wonderful sport of weightlifting. And will Deb become the first female weightlifter to represent Miles at next year's Commonwealth Games? Deb's recent performances suggest that Glasgow might indeed be on the cards. 4 Commonwealth Games, that is something. Deb's personal motto, as I understand it, is do your best in everything you do and achieve what you can. Well, she's achieved an enormous amount so far. Jane finished here. Deborah Atkinson, we recognize your magnificent achievements and contribution you've made and will continue to make to the sport of weightlifting. You're truly a worthy inductee and the first female ever to be in the Hall of Fame for Australian weightlifting. Congratulations.
Could I just say just a little anecdote? I remember at the 2006 Commonwealth Games in Melbourne. We're at the AIS for the training camp, and I remember one day in the gym there was just Deb and I was doing something pathetic with a barbell, and she was on a cycle warming down. And I said to her across the distance, I said, Deb, what would be your dream scenario for the Commonwealth Games? And she said, coming out for the last lift to win the gold medal. Anyway, as it turned out, that's what happened. And I remember just before her third attempt, she was sitting, I thought, rather slumped in a chair. Hungry, she said, but slumped in a chair. And I said to Mike Keelan, the coach, do you mind if I go up and say something to Deb? And he said, no, that's fine. So I went up and I said, Deb, I said, do you remember that conversation we had in the gym? I said, well, you're about to live that dream. And sure enough, she did. She went out and she won the gold medal. So, as I said, Deborah Atkinson, a truly worthy inductee into the Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Okay, this is sort of my moment, so I was hoping I could quickly say something. I'll try and talk quick, otherwise I'll get a bit emotional. Yeah, so firstly, as a Christian, I want to say thank you to God for the blessings that He's given me of a wonderful family and a great club to be a part of, a great state to be representing Queensland, and of course a great country to be representing. Actually, I just want to quickly say Brad, of course, introduced me into weightlifting, and Mum didn't want me to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, so she said, if we go to this, we'll go and watch a competition, and if we see those girls and they look like men, you're not allowed to do weightlifting. So thank goodness we went to the Nudgee, there was a competition there, the juniors, and we saw these beautiful young girls lifting, and of course, thank goodness, because I was allowed to start weightlifting. And of course too, my husband who cops all the jokes about who wins the arm wrestles and all that sort of stuff, thank you for that. I'm sure it's going to happen for a long time yet. But of course to the Australian Weightlifting Federation for all the competitions that you put on, and all the referees and everybody that does all the work behind the scenes, I'm really appreciative of that. And as an athlete, it really means a lot to have a federation that cares about the individual athletes. And thank you, of course, to Amanda, who's been my training partner for 10 years. We've been through a lot together. She unfortunately wasn't here. Thank you to Cougars Weightlifting Club, my first club, who supported me tremendously. Of course, to Queensland Weightlifting has supported me a lot. And of course to my coach, who's not here because, like he always is, working to late hours and doing everything that he can for the sport. I just really want to thank Mike very much, and this is such an honour, and I'm very humbled, so thank you. And Deb, sorry, I saw you there, it reminded me, I did want to say thanks to Deb because she was my first visual weightlifting coach at Cougars, and so thank you for that. So thank you very much.
In 1965, I came first to Australia. And after some resettling, I guess, in Sydney, I showed up at the Belmore Police Boys Club. And there, training and coming in, not quite knowing what he was doing, I don't think, was a very, as I saw anyway, talented young weightlifter. And I remember telling Bruce Walsh, who was my greatest friend, this kid has probably got some potential. And I never said a truer word. And the next inductee to our Hall of Fame is indeed that young fella that I met in 1966, George Vasiliadis. George was born in Cyprus, and in 1961 he migrated with his family to Australia. His first experience in weightlifting was at Belmore South Primary School, believe it or not, where he was taught by a teacher from Finland whose uncle was an Olympic weightlifter. At Kings Grove North High, one of the teachers was Gary Noak, who represented Australia in the 400-metre hurdles at the 1964 Olympic Games, and was a colleague of mine when I worked at the AIS many years later. And he encouraged George to take up weightlifting. Now Gary was about 6'3" and George was about 5'3", so I can well understand why Gary thought, well, maybe George would be better weightlifting than 400 metres hurdles. The hurdles were as big as him. And on the 29th of November 1969, George became the only Australian ever in weightlifting to set a world's record. He broke the junior world record on the press, which is a lift we don't use anymore. Unfortunately, it was my best lift too, George. Not that I was any lifter anywhere near your caliber. He pressed 97.5 kilos in the 52 kilo bodyweight category. And the record stood for 2 years. And following on from that, George was twice Commonwealth Games gold medalist. At the 1970 Commonwealth Games in Edinburgh, he won gold in the 52 kilogram category with a 290 kilogram total. There were 3 lifts in those days. I was privileged, in fact, to witness that. I was there in Edinburgh in 1970. Because the older I get, the better I used to be. In 1974, at the Commonwealth Games in Christchurch, he won the gold in the 60 kilogram category with a 230 kilogram total, because by then the press had been abolished in the competition and there were only 2 lifts. And in 1970, George had represented Australia at the World Championships in the United States. Columbus, Ohio, I believe.
Columbus.
Yeah, Columbus. And he finished in 4th place. Very, very high position for Australia, though I don't think anyone's done better than that ever, except for the '84 Olympics. George represented the Australian Olympic Committee and the Australian Weightlifting Federation at the Munich Olympics in 1972. In fact, I was privileged to be there with him. And it was the last Olympics to include the press. Here, George ended up in 6th place, and I still think you were wrong, because they turned out press in those days, in which case you would have been much higher, maybe even medal. He totaled 355 in the 56 kilogram category, where the top 5 place getters were all professional weightlifters. And George was very much an amateur weightlifter, training in his own time when he could fit it in Sydney. George had a magnificent career as an athlete, but he didn't stop there. And after he married, his 4 children also became weightlifters. And Con was Australian champion in 2002 and 2003. His daughter Maria, now Maria Papacosta, was Australian champion in 1998 and 1999. Anthony was New South Wales champion in 1997 to 1999. And William was New South Wales champion. So the Vasiliadis very much are a family of weightlifters. And I've just been talking to his grandsons here, and they all assure me they're all going to be weightlifters. A big round. George, it's a privilege to invite you to be an inductee to the Australian Weightlifting Federation Hall of Fame. It's well deserved. A first for Australia, the first and only world record.
Mr. President, members of the Australian Weightlifting Federation Executive, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, I would like to thank my peers and everybody involved for this extraordinary honour given to me tonight. I would also like to congratulate Deborah and the other inductee, I'm not sure who he is or who she is, and all the previous members who have been inducted in this Hall of Fame. Now, whatever you do in life, you need help from somebody along the way. I would like to pay tribute and say thanks to some people who had a direct influence in my weightlifting career. Some of these people you may know, some you don't. Lynn mentioned a person by the name of Saranta. When I came to Australia, I was in 6th class primary school, and I've never seen a football before. I saw this long thing, I thought the sun distorted a soccer ball. So I was kicking one way, it was going another way. And I tried cricket until I got hit in the head with a cricket ball, so I didn't like that. And then my friend Saranta introduced me to weightlifting, because his uncle did Olympic weightlifting. And then, when I was in high school, during lunchtime, I used to go and muck around in the gym. And Gary Noakes went to the 1964 Olympic Games in hurdles, and he placed 4th. And he saw me pressing 100 kilos. 100 pounds, it was pounds. So about 45 kilos. And he said to me, oh look, you look very strong, you should go and do weightlifting. And I said, well, where do I go for that? He said, try the Police Boys Club. So I had a friend by the name of John Savides who took me to the Police Boys Club in Belmont. When I went there, I didn't know anyone in Belmont Police Boys Club. So I started training. This person comes up to me and says, hey Buster, you look pretty strong. Do you want to do weightlifting? That person was Bruce Walsh. So I said, okay. He showed me some exercises, and now I know, we all know, he didn't know what he was doing either. And then I started training, I started reading books, and I started searching to find out who were the people in Australia that I had to beat. One of them, his name was Sam Coffer. So we had photographs of all the lifters that I had to beat. And at the end of our training sessions, we used to play darts. And we used to throw the darts on these athletes. And then in 1965, Bruce Walsh gave me a program. You know, I really couldn't follow that program, so I started reading books and doing my own programs. And in 1965, this fellow walks in from Wales. Bruce was telling me all about him. He wrote this book for his master's degree in Wales, and it's a weightlifting book, and you know, he's going to come and tell us all these things, what we're supposed to be doing. And he showed us squat clean. And I thought, you know, I'm not going to do this. I was a master of split clean and split snatch. I wasn't going to do squat clean. But in the end, Lynn Jones showed us how to do a squat snatch and squat clean. And then there was Joe Brent, who showed me how to jerk. And within 2 weeks, at the time I remember I was doing 90 kilo jerk. And within 2 weeks he showed me how to do it properly, and I increased it to 100 kilos. And of course there was Gordon Kirby, who always used to ring me up from time to time to see how I was going, because things were not the same as it is today in weightlifting. It wasn't as organized as it is today. And the other person I'd like to mention is Sam Copper. There is a video or a photograph somewhere where Sam Copper is got his arms up in the air, and I think the only reason that he was so happy is not because I lifted the weight, but because I saved his life. In the Commonwealth Games, I missed 110 clean and jerk. And at that point in time, I had the bronze medal. If I had done 110 and got the lift, it would have given me the silver medal. But Sam Coffer said, go for 112, and that would push the Pakistani to go for 120 clean and jerk, which we knew he couldn't get. So I thank Sam for giving me that confidence, for having that faith in me to allow me to try 112 clean and jerk, which I did get. And of course I have to thank my parents who gave me the opportunity to be involved in the sport. Also like to take the opportunity to thank all those volunteers, as Deborah mentioned before, who contribute to the sport by way of being in the background all the time and doing all the hard work, such as the administration officials, the referees, the loaders, and all the hard workers who put the competition together. And for the young people of today who get involved in sport, I would like to say to them, that as you get on in life, you will realize that the most important outcome of being involved in sport is not the medals that you get out of the sport, but rather the things you learn from the sport, such as discipline, competitiveness, and as my young grandson says, resilience. And all those things help kids later on in their life, personal life, business life, whatever they do. Today, the gold medals for me is my family and the grandkids who are here with me today. Maria is not here because she's with her husband and the 3 kids in Hawaii and in America enjoying themselves. So I thank you all very much for this great honor that you have all given me. Thank you.
This inductee is in the section of a builder, a person who's made enormous contribution to the development of Australian weightlifting. And one thing is absolutely sure, this man has done it on his own. This morning, as I was contemplating introducing the inductee, I was sitting at breakfast and I thought, what really are the big qualities of this man that I know so well? And I looked down at my plate of bacon and eggs, and I thought to myself, well, the chicken was involved, but the pig was committed. And one thing you can say for Sam Coffer, he is committed to weightlifting. And it's, as I said, a great pleasure to give the details of this man who's made such a difference to Australian weightlifting. I can do worse than to tell you the 2010 World Weightlifting magazine wrote, Sam Coffer is a small man, but he has great wisdom, vast experience, mighty enthusiasm, and a gigantic zeal. One of the longest serving officials on the IAAF. The chairman cum father of the technical committee of the International Weightlifting Federation, and the most active member of the International Weightlifting Federation Executive Board. That's quite a testimony from the International Federation. We know Sam nowadays is very much as an official, but remember, Sam has a very distinguished athletic career. It was impressive. He represented Australia at the 1962 British Empire and Commonwealth Games, as they were known in those days, in Perth. And I know the story there. Because of poor coaching and poor management, Sam was denied the opportunity to win a medal, which is still a scar on him, I know that. He's made enormous efforts since to make sure that that sort of thing would never happen to Australian teams again. Sam represented Australia at the 1964 Tokyo Olympic Games, which was also the 1964 World Championships in those days. Sam himself lists his main milestones as marching behind the Australian flag at the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games. He became mayor of the city of Hawthorne. He was elected on 2 separate occasions, and he was the first migrant to do so. He was elected as the first vice president of the International Weightlifting Federation. Once again, a first for Australian weightlifting. No one else has achieved a higher position within the International Federation. He also mentions that he takes great pride in being the president of the Australian Federation during the Sydney 2000 Olympic Games, the magnificent success they were, and the 2006 Melbourne Commonwealth Games, and the 1993 World Weightlifting Championships in Melbourne. Sam's been the recipient of many honours over the years, and it would be remiss of me not to mention one of his most recent ones. He's recently been co-opted onto the International Commonwealth Games Federation Committee. Once again, an enormous honour for Australia, but also for Sam himself. Sam's officiated at 7 Olympic Games and 8 Commonwealth Games, and there's more to come. He was made a member of the Order of Australia, AM, for services to the sport of weightlifting, youth, and the community. He was awarded the gold medal of the International Weightlifting Federation for services to the sport. Sam's a life member of the Australian Weightlifting Federation, a life member of the Australian Commonwealth Games Association, the Victorian Commonwealth Games Association, and believe it or not, the Victorian Wrestling Association. So other sports hold him in very high esteem as well. As we know, he's president of the Australian Commonwealth Games Association and has been an enormous help to weightlifting in that position. And I'm sure he's taken some flack from his other members of his committee because of his, I guess, voracious standing up for our sport. Sam's also been inducted into the International Weightlifting Federation Hall of Fame. Once again, an enormous honour. And this doesn't even take into consideration his 23 consecutive years as the president of the Australian Weightlifting Federation. Sam Coffer, it's my great pleasure to invite you to come forward and receive our Hall of Fame medal.
I was just saying to Sam that even though I'm the president of the Federation, I honestly don't feel worthy presenting this award to a man of the great achievements of Sam Coffer. And I congratulate you, Sam. This is truly well deserved.
My goodness me. I use a friendly lectern, so you can see me as well as hear me. First of all, congratulations to Debbie and to George on their induction. well merited. George was very polite, I think, in his description of what happened in Edinburgh, and I'll tell you the real story. And the real story is that he's right when he said that he was already in a silver medal position when he got his first clean and jerk. And I, in my own way as a manager and the coach of the team, had gone to the training area and had seen this Pakistani lifter managing 115 and 117, even though he was a little overweight. But I had considered that at 52, he couldn't get up with 120. That was my estimation anyway. You know, you have to take a gamble sometimes. So George was in a silver medal, and he was selected as a silver medal prospect in the team. And he went in for 110 clean and jerk, which was for the kill. I mean, this would have really pushed the Pakistani bloke further, and he missed it. Now, of course, the conventional system suggests that you go back in again and you do the same thing. But I thought, he's won the silver medal, we're going for the gold. George, what about 112? George says, I'll do it, boss, I'll do it, you know, don't worry. I said, but listen, you don't get this. When I go back home, they'll have my you-know-what. But I've got news for you. If you miss it, I'll have yours here on the stage. Now, so my raising my hands was my delight, because both of us managed to father some children. That's a story. Thank you, Len, and thank you, Robert, and thank you to everybody for this honour. I accept it with a certain amount of pride and some humility. I do believe that such honours are not won, they are awarded because people believe that the person concerned has earned it. And it makes it even more acceptable when your own peers have made such a decision. So when Mike Killen rang me to ask me if I would accept the nomination, I was quick to answer in the affirmative. And really wondered myself that is why people in similar situations would reject it. But I guess everybody has his or her views and principles. The induction in the Awf Hall of Fame under the category of builder, I consider pretty apt in my case. The definition of builder is doesn't just concern bricks and mortar, although I have managed a few in my time. I think I've had 3 purpose-built gym in Hawthorne. But it concerns, for me anyway, also the legacy aspect. Legacies is a word that slips out of one's tongue so easily nowadays. Political leaders, sporting authorities, event bidding officials, games, organising, corporation, etc. all manage to include legacy in their parlance and documentation. But for me, legacy includes actions. Actions which are innovative, have lasting effects, that make a difference to the athletes and to the sport in both moral and practical terms. And, of course, change some aspects of the course, in many instances antiquated aspects. And I would like to, with your indulgence, highlight to you a few such items of legacy I have had a hand in which I'm very proud of. Women in weightlifting is one. When women were introduced in the Olympic Games in the Sydney 2000 Games, very few people, certainly I don't think many of you, would know I was the chairman of the International Weightlifting Federation Women's Commission. And we did a lot of work to try and have women included in the Olympic Games. When we did make an official application to the AOC, the International Olympic Committee, offered us 3 women's categories. And we rejected it. because we believed it was tokenism. And so the International Weightlifting Federation executive were not very happy, but we kept working at this, and we did a lot of work. We worked with the other 3 standing committees, and finally we reviewed the categories, the men's categories that is, and the women's categories, and we sacrificed 2 men's medals. And I remember arguing at the executive committee that this was one time when less meant more, because we lost 2 men, but we gained 4 women categories. And in other words, we increased our medals from 10 to 15, which is what we got now. I guess our challenge in the next 4 years is to bring parity between men and women. I would like to see 8 men and 8 women. That's our challenge. Women technical official is another area. I believe you all know that my endeavours in trying to promote women technical officials worldwide, and again, I'm very proud to say that at any event, now any IWF events, we are now appointing 50% women in every referees group. It wasn't easy, but it is now mandated in the rules. We now have technical officials, women technical officials, in any referees group, 50%. A review of the rules. I was very pleased and very proud when the rules were changed to allow people from different religious and cultural background to take up our sport as a result of our changes in the competition uniform. In other words, we made it possible for Muslim women and men to take up our sport. And we also gave the opportunity, or afforded the opportunity again as a result of our changes, to athletes with prosthetic limbs to compete. Very, very happy about that as well. The 1 kilogram rule and the power to the jury to reverse technical incorrect decision are perhaps my most satisfying changes of technical rules I have managed to have implemented. These changes have made the sport more exciting and fairer for the athletes. Changes which have transformed, in my opinion, the landscape of our sport and the Olympic format. Promotion of junior programs. Juniors in any sport are not supported financially by any authority in this country, except by the Commonwealth Games Association. I proposed the funding of the Australian Commonwealth Games Junior Squad back in 1995, and since then we have spent $8 million towards this program, which we hope, of course, that it will continue indefinitely. Many of Australia's biggest sporting names have benefited from this program as they made their way up through the junior ranks, including, of course, our own. And in the future, we hope we will see many more gain from the experience it offers. Sporting funding and direct athlete assistance. Similarly, with sustained funding from the Australian Commonwealth Games Association, our program sports have received serious money, including, of course, our own sport. In many cases, sports like swimming receive more funds in from the Commonwealth Games Association than they do from the Olympic Committee. The ACGA for the Glasgow Commonwealth Games has appropriated nearly $7 million for preparation and $1 million for direct athletes assistance. And at the last meeting of the board, the board of the Australian Commonwealth Games Association, only a matter of 10 days ago, decided to set aside $10 million towards the 2018 Commonwealth Games, which will be held in the Gold Coast. Funds for which program sports plans and submissions will be requested by October this year. with the intention of starting the flow of funds to the sports by early next year. These, in my opinion, are some of the essential elements in the legacy debate that I was talking about. Now, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, I have not done this by myself, alone. I have received support and assistance from many, many individuals, many of whom are here tonight. I will not name them. They do know who they are, and they know also I am very grateful to each and every one of them. In closing, may I thank the trustees or the subcommittee members or commission, whatever it is called, of the Awf Hall of Fame for recommending my name, and to the Awf Board of Directors for accepting those recommendations. Thank you.